inaugural student conference. It is an honor to have you all. Prior to commencing the conference, we wish to acknowledge the land on which we are hosting this conference, the land on which the University of Toronto operates, and the land on which we live, we meaning the conference committee. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live on this land. Please allow me to introduce myself to everybody. My name is Binta Bajaha, and I'm the chair of the Graduate Student Union. I'm a second-year PhD student at WGSI, researching the field of climate change mitigation and adaptation, drawing upon feminist political ecology and intersectionality to understand the gender resilience, vulnerability, and agency of climate change in Sahelian West Africa. With me, I have the pleasure of working with an excellent team, Darlene Batista, Sam Sentinel, Ferdy Lopez, and Esra Kanzapes. I'll also introduce each one of them. Darlene is a second-year student, and her research focuses on transnational affect and the legacy of Filipino migrant workers from the 1960s present in Winnipeg. Sam is in their second year, and their research focuses on transgender theory and continental philosophy of religion to understand trans embodiment through a reconceptualization of Christian ethic. Ezra is a second-year PhD student, interested in body politics using a Foucauldian analysis to understand violence against women in Turkey. And Ferdy Lopez, research interest focuses on the Bakla as an archipelagic queer as articulation of trans-specific form of non-gender conforming subjects. By focusing on the everyday refusal and resistance, these queer subjects negotiate and subvert social and religious prescriptions in queerified spaces of Catholic possession, sex workers, beauty pageants, and migrant labor. From my little bio, you could tell that we come from a very diverse background, and this reflects WGSI. In Speaking to Power, this graduate conference hopes to bring to the forefront fringe voices of the academe. We were confident that our peers within and outside University of Toronto will bring about enriching and thought-provoking discussions using feminist theories and praxis to explore power in all of its iterations. We hope this conference captures what we believe the WGSI of UFT stands for, a transnational feminist machinery that provokes us to ask how we can use gender theories to resist the intersectionalities of power, be it power concentrated in sexism, racism, classism, colonialism, capitalism, homophobia, transphobia, etc. COVID-19 has, of course, changed the makings of this conference, but because of the great selection of keynote speakers that we have and panelists, we couldn't imagine losing out on this opportunity in hosting a virtual community that connects students, researchers, faculty, and scholars from across the world. In this conference, we will celebrate the past, present, and future of women and gender studies, cognizant of its significant contribution in social transformation and human development. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the panelists and our keynote speakers, Professor Emerita M. Jackie Alexander, Dr. Kathy Schoen-Viles, Dr. Anjali Arundeka, and Dr. Setsu Shigematsu for being generous with their time, knowledge, and experience. With that, I pass it over to our director of WGSI, Professor Alyssa Trotz. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? Okay, Jackie, can you hear me?
There's an echo, but I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I'm going to read really close up to the computer, just so Jackie can hear me all the way in Tobago. So thank you so much, Binta, and welcome everyone. I have been asked to say a few words to introduce Jackie, and so I will limit myself to that this morning. I guess it's, you know, I suppose I should sort of begin by saying, well, I don't know, you know, what to say, I suppose. Jackie Alexander is an influential theorist of, you know, what we've come to understand as transnational feminism, and her work in and across the Caribbean, whether Bahamas and Trinidad and Tobago and North America, has really radically upended our understandings of the connections between heteropatriarchy, gendered respectability, the national, the international, the state and citizenship in the entangled spaces of the neo-colonial and neo-imperial. In any mapping of genealogies of transnational feminism, and certainly for us here at the Institute at the University of Toronto, it is without question the scholarship of Jackie and Chandratal Mahanti that foregrounds the labor of Black women, Indigenous women, and women of color across borders. A position that was laid out so beautifully and clearly articulated in their edited text, Feminist Genealogies, Colonial Legacies, Democratic Futures. And her book, Pedagogies of Crossing, extends this discussion to challenge the secular investments of feminist scholarship and praxis, and to grapple with what the sacred spirit, not religion, Jackie, I think would say, what the sacred opens us to, work that has anticipated so much of what we're grappling with today. But in this very brief introduction, what I want to do for us is to just make explicit in just a few minutes how for so many of us, our work at Women and Gender Studies has really been shaped by Jackie. It was close to 2 decades ago, 2003, I believe, that we actually began the journey that would lead us to transform our pedagogical and curricular initiatives to foreground transnational feminism. That was a conversation that began inspired hugely by Jackie's work, and that led to our successful persuasion. It wasn't easy, but our successful persuasion in our conversations with Jackie to join us in what we were trying to build here at the University of Toronto. I want to sort of put on the table as well that it was in fact Jackie and Lisa Yoneyama who years later would actually be the ones who led the conversations in our program meetings in this department about a position in indigeneity as a priority for our department. It was their work that really put this on the table years before the University of Toronto would put TRC questions on the university agenda. And for Jackie in particular, this was work that had always been preceded and accompanied by several amazing courses she developed in this department: Indigenous, Black, and immigrant women in the land of dollars, migrations of the sacred. I think, in these pandemic times when our classrooms have gone online, our earliest experimentation with in-person conversations as well as transnational virtual exchange was in fact an amazing joint course on migrations of the sacred that brought together undergraduate and graduate students from Spelman and the University of Toronto when Jackie was away for a year or two as a visiting chair, endowed chair at Spelman College. And one of those students in that class who helped to build a website that brought students together was the amazing writer, Alexis Pauline Gumbs, who I believe, Jackie, was then a doctoral student at Duke University. Alexis describes herself as a queer Black troublemaker and Black feminist love evangelist. And her text, Archive, is actually explicitly inspired by and revolves around an engagement with Jackie's work. And 2 of Jackie's former students from those classes, Nicole Charles and Cassandra Lord, who join us here this morning, are now actually faculty members in Women and Gender Studies here at the University of Toronto. So your legacy is just so extensive. Some of the last versions of that migrations course that were taught here in Toronto before Jackie's retirement revolved around exploring the sacred intelligence of plants. I attended some of the sessions one year when community elders visited the class, and where the final presentation involved students tracking their plant via circuits from the transatlantic slave trade that brought the woman piaba bush from West Africa to the Caribbean, connecting the ginkgo biloba to repressed familial memories of Japanese Canadian internment and reparation, following turmeric's healing properties through journeys from partition experiences in India and civil war in Bangladesh. And I vividly recall when asked by Jackie what they were taking away from their journey, one that actually had begun with some students questioning what the hell a class on plants could have to do with women and gender studies. One student saying that they thought they were choosing a plant to study, but that in fact the plant had chosen them. This is the knowing that has followed Jackie through her return to Trinidad and Tobago and to the land and plot where she's now situated as a sacred site of reclamation, healing, and regeneration, grounded in the Tobago Center for the Study and Practice of Indigenous Spirituality that she founded, and where she joins us from on this shaky phone line today. So let me straight up begin by say that I want to thank the students, Binta, Sam, Ferdy, Darlene, and Ezra in particular, for your dogged persistence in reaching out and engaging Jackie in conversation. And this has been going on for everyone on this call long before the pandemic, because this was supposed to be an in-person conference. And at the time, Jackie was supposed to come, but then it turned out that there was a ceremony that would have made it impossible for her to join us then. But I believe that she would have started to engage the students via Skype when she was coming up to New York for a lecture series at Brandeis University that was named after her. And the inaugural lecture was given, I believe, in March of this year by Faith Smith. And so even today, with a tentative phone connection, I want to invite us to reflect on what this means and what the students, our graduate students, have invited us to consider. How can we make it mean something? And I want to say upfront as well, Jackie, that this is long overdue. How might we make use of you? By which I do not mean use up, to deplete, to discard, to make disposable, the kind of use that is dominated by the exchange value of this world we inhabit currently. What I mean by use is to make good use of, to work alongside, guided by, learning with and from you, as a way of reckoning with what it means in these strange and dangerous times, as you would put it, Jackie, to become fluent in each other's histories, those are your words, as we work to give meaning to the recognition that, as you say, quote, decolonization is a project for all, end quote. Finally, on a personal note, this is a good time to say publicly to everyone, and hopefully I don't get emotional here, Jackie, how much I've missed you, how thankful I've been for your continuing link to me in the years since you left Toronto, whether it was jumping on a plane and coming from Tobago to Trinidad to meet me for a few hours in the airport when I would transit on my way to Guyana, whether it was helping to really anchor me last year when I lost my other mother, Andaye, as we were completing final edits on her book, just a few months before Gloria Joseph herself also joined the spirit world, whether it was you flying into Barbados 2 months later for a 48-hour visit to support me as I gave Andaye's lecture posthumously, whether it was you urging me to find an open access online place to make it available, especially in the Caribbean, which we did in the last issue of Scholar and Feminist Online. I want to thank you, Jackie, elder, sister, mentor, and friend, for joining us today and for signaling your openness and desire to deepen and continue these conversations. I don't know if you remember, you sent me an email when it turned out that you couldn't show up in person for the grad students, and you said, quote, "There is a part of me that knows when things happen in this fashion, it also means this is not yet the time, in spite of what we might think," end quote. Well, Jackie Alexander, now is the time. Thank you. Over to you.